Welcome to Setup Wars episode 346, ladies and gents. Just 23 more until my favorite episode number.
Daddy, chill.
We did hit 5k likes on the last Setup Wars video, so just as I promised, here's a brand new banger intro. So without further ado, sit back and relax, because you know what time it is.
This ain't no mess, this a tech lover's art. Cable management, flex is showing off that smart. Custom rigs bringing light shows on display. Setup wars like a star, a sacred star every single day.
We are kicking off the episode with Andrew and his corner setup. He actually works for the US military and built his personal corner in the span of 1 year for the purpose of gaming and work. Thank you for your service, good sir. Just a glance is enough to tell us that he's a fellow Tolkienite and Star Wars fan. I mean, the massive Anduril replica is impressive enough, don't get me wrong. But we also have the complete collection of Lord of the Rings and Hobbit books, plus the Jedi Path, different maps, and even a Jedi Academy certificate. Sheesh! We don't have that many pictures of the rest of the room, but judging by what he sent us, Andrew had limited space to work with, so going with an L-shaped desk was definitely the right choice for this corner. He chose the Eureka ergonomic desk with built-in RGB with a matching Eureka chair. This is actually the same brand that we got the PC desk from for Anrita's setup for season 9, for those that remember. For the monitor, he went with a single Samsung G9 display. I mean, this does make sense since you wanted to maximize the screen real estate while minimizing the number of monitor arms that needed to be attached to the desk with a glass surface. Speaking of the monitor, your setup is actually the perfect candidate for our new Setup of the Month contest on Discord. This month, we're only accepting single ultralight setups, and the best setup of the month will take home a $200 Amazon gift card, free TechSource mouse pad, and a ticket to the Setup of the Year contest, where the best setup of the year will take home a mega prize. Every month is a different category just to make it fair for everyone. We're gonna have budget setups, we're gonna have potato setups, laptop only setups, so if you guys wanna participate, join my Discord, the link below. The peripherals of choice are a 60% Wooting keyboard and a Razer Basilisk mouse, resting right next to his EPOS headphones and the Edifier G1000 speakers. The cable management could use a little bit of work, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, most of the cables are tied and they're not touching the ground, but there is some extra slack hanging on the sides of the desk or going to the power strip that can be easily fixed with a couple of clips or magnetic cable ties. The PC powering the setup is a black and green theme build inside the Fantex NV7, featuring a Ryzen 7 7700X and the RX 6750 XT. If I'm not mistaken, I believe we saw 11 fans like this in episode 341 inside the same case actually, but I can't really tell from the photos whether they are all installed as exhaust or intake. Andrew, if you're watching this video, let me know in the comment section. But overall, I do like what you did here. You kept the color scheme consistent, you presented your hobbies and interests without overpowering the setup, and you did all that in a limited space. I usually don't make such recommendations on the show, but besides the cable management and the fans, I would like to know whether you're planning on adding new flooring inside this room. It would not only cover all the paint marks that you got there, but also make the setup pop even more with a contrasting wooden floor, for example. With that said, thank you, Andrew, for being on the show. Up next is Arik, also known as Sistan, with his gaming and streaming setup. So he's a video editor from Toronto, and it took him 5 years to bring it to its current form. Right off the bat, what catches our eyes are the monitors, for two reasons. First is, of course, the unusual layout, with them being spaced out from one another. We usually see this when people don't want to block gear that's behind the monitors. For example, when we want to have speakers between them. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. That's not to say it's a bad thing or necessarily you're doing it wrong. You know, it all comes down to preference at the end of the day. So if you prefer the look, then by all means do what makes you happy. The second thing is the monitor on the left. It's not often we see square, or rather 16 by 18 displays on the show. Being the highest resolution monitor with a nano IPS display, it's safe to assume that he uses that one for work and video editing. As we pan down from the monitors, it becomes clear that Sistan didn't limit himself to only one device of each category. You guys aren't gonna believe this, but there's pretty much 2 pairs of gear here. There's a pair of G Pro Superlight mice, a GMK Pro keyboard, 2 Go XLRs, 2 Stream Decks. I mean, the list keeps on going. We got 2 pairs of headphones, one of which we see on the desk, and the Astro A50s hidden somewhere else. Believe it or not, all of them have their purpose and they're being utilized, because if we look at the setup from a wide angle, we'll see that he is rocking not one, but two PCs. One for gaming and one for editing and streaming. The main gaming rig is packed with an i9 10900K and an EVGA RTX 3080, while the secondary build is very similar, with the only major differences being the 2080 Super, and also double the amount of RAM and more storage. One recommendation I can give you with the PC is to tug on the GPU cables from the back of the case to tighten the cables from the front, because you have a lot of extra slack and it's giving your GPU a flaccid look when it should look more tight and erect. Now, even though you don't have a carpet floor, it would still be better to raise the PCs a little bit more above the ground to help reduce dirt and debris buildup. A pair of slim cabinets could be a potential option here, or a piece of wood from Home Depot attached to some cheap rubber feet from Amazon. I do see that you've already routed many cables through raceways behind the PCs, so making such changes could prove to be difficult. Talking about cable management, with so much gear and two PCs, handling that much spaghetti can be quite challenging. System, however, did an amazing job to properly route them through the sleeves and the racks, tie them together with Velcro straps, cable ties, and even keep them off the ground flush to the desk. Taking a step back, I feel like decor is the main thing that's missing here. First of all, the wall needs to be fixed and repainted at the bottom right above the trim. And also, the empty space above the monitors could use some bling. He did say in the notes that he is still looking for creative ways to display something, but at the same time, keeping it symmetrical. Since your setup is in the corner of the room and you have a window on the right side, which is pretty much taking up 1/3 of what would have been the wall, symmetrical wall decor isn't really feasible here. Honestly though, I don't even think you need it to be symmetrical. There are an infinite amount of cool ways that you can spice it up and actually take advantage of the corner by running either JSK RGB lines or those flexible rope lights from one wall to the other, for example. Since you also prefer going by your alias, a neon sign saying System could also be an option. One thing I would definitely recommend, regardless of what decor you decide to go with, is to pick something that has a rounded shape. It would offset the rectangular shapes of your monitors very well and complement the overall look. All in all, it was great having you on the show, System. Thank you for participating. Coming up at number 3 is Ayub and his hybrid console and productivity setup. We haven't seen one of these on the show in a while. He's also from Toronto and started building the setup in 2016, going through multiple different styles and themes. The current version's foundation is the classic IKEA countertop with Alex Drawer combo, featuring a dual monitor layout. We got a 27-inch ROG monitor for gaming and the Apple Studio display for productivity. Someone's serious about their work when they're casually dropping $2,000 on a monitor. The layout itself wouldn't be my personal go-to, but since he decided to use the default monitor stands and wanted to keep things symmetrical, this was the only option left. I do, however, think it would feel awkward to always look at an angle when using either monitor and having that bezel right in the middle though. What was a smart move though was lifting the monitors with a riser, given he kept the default stands. This way he was able to accommodate more of his gear and made a bit more space for his mix amp, Stream Deck, microphone, and CalDigit dock. Moving on to peripherals, we got the Logitech MX keyboard and a mouse combo with the Apple trackpad on the side. Arguably the most popular choice for Mac users. His audio gear isn't too shabby either. We have a pair of Kanto YU speakers tilted to ear level and 2 pairs of headphones hanging underneath the desk. The Astro A40s for gaming and the DT990 Pros when it's time to edit. I'm not a huge fan of leaving the microphone on the desk, especially behind the keyboard, since it can easily pick up the clicks, but seeing as you only game on the console, you probably use the headset's mic instead. While we're here, let's also appreciate the super clean cable management. Everything is handled properly and routed right behind the desk and the Alex drawers. Good job. Now, as we mentioned before, each monitor is powered individually. The Asus monitor is hooked up to his beautifully stealth-skinned PS5 on the left, and the Apple display to his M3 Max MacBook Pro on a docking station on the right. I love how he kept everything symmetrical, with both positioning and the number of devices on each side without any unnecessary clutter. Since Ayub's goal was to make a minimalistic setup, he chose the decor accordingly. We have 3 posters representing his passions and a bit of history. We've got an iPhone 5S breakdown on the right, which was the first iPhone he ever bought and still owns to this day. We got a map of his hometown in the middle and a Destiny 2 displayed on the left. The first ever game franchise that he played for almost 10 years, clocking in over 5,000 hours. Hold up. Wait a minute. Let's do some math here, okay? 5,000 hours, that's over 208 days, which is almost 7 months worth of time. Holy guacamole. You know what that reminds me? I gotta check what my most played game is.
2 hours later.
Okay, barely 350 hours on the finals, but you know, in my defense, it's a fairly new game. Anyways, this was a great minimalistic setup. Thank you, Ayub, for coming on the show. Next up is the youngest contestant of today's episode, Christian, and his super minimalistic setup. He's a student and baseball player from the city that never sleeps, and he built it over the span of 4 years for the purpose of gaming and chilling during his free time. Right off the bat, I have to know whether the backboard size and monitors were chosen on purpose to achieve this almost perfect straight line with the top bezels when looking at the setup at eye level. The seamless look definitely made my boy happy down there. With that in mind, Christian is rocking triple 24-inch monitors in a TIE Fighter layout with a 280Hz Asus in the middle and 2 Scepters on both sides in vertical mode. Very odd choice with the right monitor being 165Hz, but I assume you used it as your main gaming monitor before upgrading to this current layout. There's not much more we've got going on the desk here. He most likely put all the extra items in the 3 pencil drawers he has underneath the tabletop and kept only the main gear in sight. We have the AN Pro 2 keyboard paired with the G Pro X Superlight resting on a glorious extended mousepad and his audio devices. We got a Pseudotech USB microphone on a boom arm, a pair of Arctis 7P headphones, and the Edifier MR4 speakers right underneath the middle monitor, sandwiching the Xbox controller. In terms of space, the speakers fit there like a glove, and it's actually very satisfying to look at, but I can't help but think that you're not really getting the most out of them. First of all, they're not tilted to ear level, and they're blasting right onto your torso when you're sitting down. Additionally, having them so close to each other wouldn't give you the stereo feeling that you'd get if they were spaced out a little more. What I would personally do is shift your monitors and peripherals to the left a little bit so that you're taking advantage of that empty space. And then with the extra room next to your monitors, you can install either speaker stands or simply put them on the desk with isolation pads underneath. This way you wouldn't sacrifice space on the desk, but also you can take advantage of everything your speakers have to offer. Taking a look underneath the desk, the cable management is pristine. Virtually no cables in sight, with everything tied up cleanly inside the racks. I mean, beautifully executed. Finally, the beast powering the setup is built inside the Lianli 011, which he actually won from a giveaway from VRLA Tech. It's rocking an i9 14900KF and an RTX 4080, 64 gigs of DDR5 memory, and tons of storage. Honestly, looking at the specs and the parts choice, this isn't your usual pre-build that you see often. Truly a great prize, congrats on the PC, and kudos to VRLA Tech for building nice systems. I do have to say, however, those specs are definitely overkill for the number of pixels that they need to push. So my personal recommendation for a first big upgrade in the future would be at least a 1440p monitor for your primary. Squeeze as much from that 4080 as you can. But apart from that, I already know people in the comment section will say that the setup itself feels empty, but each setup is a work in progress and needs to fit its owner's needs first. You know, a little personality won't hurt, of course. But with that said, make sure to reapply whenever you've made some changes. Thank you, Christian, for participating. Last but certainly not the least is Christian Senior, a technician from Denmark, and his marshmallow themed setup. All right, look, put your pitchforks down. I was just kidding. Christian here went all in with the Dead Mouse theme. I'm sure David from our team will be drooling as soon as he sees this. It's not just a few wallpapers or the Dead Mouse Edition chair. He custom made almost every single piece of decor here. We got a real carbon fiber Dead Mouse head, which we can see him wearing here. Damn, nice biceps, by the way, dude. You must give some really comforting hugs. Anyways, we also got a blue version of it, personally signed by Dead Mouse himself. We also got some custom made acoustic panels in the Dead Mouse cube shape, lit with an addressable RGB strip, and tons of miscellaneous 3D printed collectibles and props. You love to see it. Every single piece of lighting can be changed via an app, and let him switch color schemes to match his mood with only a press of a button. Just like Christian Jr., he went with a triple monitor layout, but with 3 Samsung displays instead. 2 1440p with 240Hz monitors at the bottom, and a single 144Hz panel at the top. Given that they are curved panels, we once again see the bezel being right in the middle for the 2 bottom ones, which isn't optimal if you ask me, but symmetry was more important here, I assume. A TIE Fighter layout might have worked as well, but again, it all depends on the use case. All 3 of them are attached to the wall with sturdy TV mounts which go through the cutouts he made in the 3D panels. The same goes for his camera that he uses for streaming and the Audio Engine A5 Plus speakers. Really great use of space here. The desk itself is kept very clean. I mean, we only got his collection of consoles, his Wave XLR, Stream Deck, and the glorious set of peripherals. I mean, look at the way he routed the coiled keyboard cable between the 2 devices. Beautiful. When it's time to game, he switches from the speakers to the SteelSeries Arctis Nova Pros on the right, but he does have a pair of Audio-Technicas as well, hanging on a pegboard on the left among the controllers and the VR gear. Now, the moment of truth, ladies and gents, the cable management. Okay, I need to power up for this. I don't know why I was making that noise. 99% of them are hidden out of sight thanks to that piece of wood he attached at the back underneath the desk. That did not, however, stop him from managing and tying them up properly and routing them through a few channels towards the monitors to blend in with the wall. The PS5 cables were routed through a white sleeve to keep it consistent, and I can't even tell where the cables going towards the PC are. I assume they go all the way around behind the wall. That is some serious dedication here. The icing on the cake, of course, is the wall-mounted beauty inside the Thermaltake Core P3 case. It's rocking a Ryzen 7 7700X and the Asus RTX 3080 custom painted in white to match the overall color scheme. With all of the carefully crafted custom work, the subtle RGB accents, perfectly balanced gear and decor choice on top of the unique look you have achieved for your setup, I am more than happy to award you with the iconic 69th seal of approval. I wanted to say that with a straight face, but I couldn't. Hit me up on Discord and claim your plaque and your free TechSource mousepad, my guy. Well deserved, and congrats on the 69th seal of approval. There's only gonna be one. There's only gonna be one, and you got it. I believe this is the most seals of approvals I've given out in the span of just a few episodes. It's crazy how good your guys' setups are getting on the show. Regardless, that is it for today. I hope this video made your Mondays just a little bit better. Make sure you guys comment below on which of these setups was your absolute favorite. Subscribe for more setup content coming your way, and I will see you very soon in the next one.